Now, Barry Cohane in the chair this afternoon for the official opening down here at Radio House, 38 Carlisle Street, Ingleburn. And of course now we're crossing out to Ian Donaghy, who's in the car park next door for the official opening. Are you there, Ian?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Barry. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the official opening of Radio House here at Ingleburn. We've invited a few local members. I'd just like to thank them for attending this afternoon. The member for Werriwa, Mr. Kerin. The member for Macarthur, if I'm correct, Chris Haviland. Sorry, Chris. And one of our councillors, also representing Campbelltown Council, and also one of our members, Councillor Paul Blyton. Thank you for attending. Just before we get underway with the official opening, there's a few thank yous that we'd like to pass on from behalf of the members to the following people. Steve Bryan, who I can't see in the crowd, he said he was going to come. Steve Bryan from Roden Schwartz, who has supplied over the past 3 years their equipment that have enabled us to get to air at each test transmission. This is our 10th test transmission for those people that don't know. We've been on air since been testing since 1989. We'll probably do another 4 or 5 before we actually get our full-time licence. There's a gentleman that is here that has come down all the way from Newcastle, Len Daly. Thank you for building our panels, Len. Much appreciated. Gentleman standing next to me here that's put up with a lot of crap from me and other members over the past few years, but Greg, thank you. Greg's our honorary technician. There's a couple of guys that aren't here as yet. They did tell me they were coming, but it doesn't look like they've made it. Keith, Gavin and Greg Smith that have wired up our studios inside for us. Thanks, guys, if you're listening. And just a few members that we'd like to mention that actually had a big hand in building Studio 1. David Tulk, Dave Kemp, Greg O'Reilly, Dennis Millwood and Dennis Merchant. And if I've forgotten anybody else, please, my apologies. And just one last thank you to the following people for these community groups that have turned up today and helped make today a big success. The Campbelltown Camera Club, the Macarthur Lions, the Campbelltown District Spoon Club, the Girls Brigade, Reg Vardy that had the big variety club. Oh, it's back. There it is. I didn't see that arrive. Thanks, Reg, for turning up with that. Ray Ruggless, who's been driving the little one around, and the Campbelltown Chamber Orchestra. Thank you to all those people for attending today. And that's about it from me. I'd like to introduce the President of Macarthur Community Radio, John Evans, to take it over from here. Thank you, John.
I'm not quite as tall as Ian, so we've just bring it down. Not quite as tall as many people, really. But thanks, Ian. And I'd just like to add to what Ian has said about thanking people. I think it has been, it's been a long road to get to this stage, and I think we've got an equally long road before we get to the air full time. But nevertheless, we're determined to be there. I think there's a lot of people that thought we wouldn't make it this far, but we've made it this far, and we're not giving in now. So I'd just like to thank all you people who are sitting right in front of me at this moment for showing your support for what we're doing, because basically Macarthur Community Radio is Macarthur community, and the radio is really a minor point of it. We are part of the Macarthur community. We all live in the area. We all support the endeavours, especially I would assume that most of you people are representing other community groups, and we would like to think that our efforts are going to help put your community group really on the map in Macarthur if you're not already there. And we'd just like to thank you for showing your support by turning up today. I suppose I don't really have to introduce John Kerin. If you don't know him, I don't think you've lived here very long. John has been the member for Werriwa, if I can remember correctly, since 1977, and before that was for a while the member for Macarthur. But it's amazing how the electorates move around when you're in the fastest growing region in Australia. So he's obviously well known to everybody here, and that's because he's done a lot of work for the community and has, I think, served us very well. As well as that, before I just formally ask him to open Radio House, I'd just like to also mention the Campbelltown City Council, who have made these premises available to us. Even though we are having our official opening today, they really, well, we're hoping that they'll be fairly permanent, but we're not 100% sure how long we'll be here. I know Paul will be working on our behalf to make sure we're here as long as we can be. It's just nice to have a home. I think if you've ever been involved in radio broadcasting and trying to get a test transmission together, you'll know how much easier it is. And I'd like to thank Paul so far for his efforts too, and I'd also thank Chris for coming here and showing the support of the federal government at least. I might add that we did have an apology from Craig Knowles, who was going to be here, but unfortunately he was tied up at another venue that has been a bit late going, so he's rung through and with his apologies. And John Ryan was also going to be here, and unfortunately, due to sudden family commitments, is unable to be here too, so I just thought you should know that. Well, without any further ado, I'd like to call on John Kerin to officially open Radio House at Ingleburn. Thank you, John.
Well, thank you very much, Ian, John, my parliamentary colleague, Chris Haviland, member for Macarthur. I don't know about Paul, I think it's aldermaniacal colleague. I don't know how you say aldermanic. Councillor. All right, they're all councillors. Okay, that makes it easy. You're no longer maniacal, you're a councillor. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it really is with a great deal of pleasure that I'm here, because the whole history of radio in Campbelltown has been a very long story. I wasn't quite sure I was going to get here. I only got the facts when I got back from Africa. I was sort of stuck in a place called Burundi, the capital city of which was Bujumbura. And I must tell you, John, the first thing that happens when there's a coup, the army pulls the plug on the radio station, as well as the TV and telephone. But communications are very important. But to go back to this long story, 2CT used to be up there on the hill. I'm told was the first community radio station in Australia. That's sort of seldom acknowledged. It was opened by the Minister of the day then, Tony Staley, back in 1978. In this area, there's been an ongoing demand, request. There's been ongoing enthusiasm to get a local radio station. And there's just as much pressure to get a commercial FM out here as there's been to get a community station. It's only by the persistence of people like John Ryan and the 50 or so members of MCR that we've got to where we are today. And it's been a long, hard job. And I guess the basis of the demand from the local community for such a radio station is if there's 2 WS in the west, if there's 2 Gosford, if there's 2 Wollongong, whatever the numbers are and acronyms are these days, given the growth that's going to come into this Macarthur area, growth now particularly to be seen in the Narellan area and Chris Haviland's electorate, there is also a concomitant need for some local radio for commercial or community reasons, no matter what. And there is no way that the really big radio stations with modern technology can serve this whole area. You can quite simply limit it with various ways and means, and it is very simple to have local radio, but for one thing, or 2 things, and that is politicians and bureaucracy. Now, believe it or not, I was Minister for Transport and Communications for 18 days. This is 1991. I had 4 ministerial jobs. I only lost 3 that year. And I thought I'd find out all about this thing called the spectrum, because you wouldn't believe the number of meetings I've gone to where various bureaucrats come along and give you a lot of gobbledygook that really does mean that you're always in a catch-22 situation, because there is always pressure on the spectrum, and Defence Force have got this amount of the spectrum, and there's this amount of the spectrum, and there's this that's blank, and what do you want that for? We don't know, but we might want it one day. Now, I must tell you, in 18 days, I didn't get very far with the spectrum. And then when you sort of get somewhere down the line, getting an understanding of what may or may not be available in the various capital cities, and when Sydney can't be treated differently to other major capital cities, and all the rest of that, they changed the reviewing body. Now, the latest bit of work, I suppose you could call it, from the relevant reviewing body now says In terms of the area out here, licence area plans, there'll really be nothing before 1995, and that really means there'll be not much before 1996. But people out here just simply want to know where they are, and unless the politicians, the relevant minister, can tell you, it is very frustrating being people like Chris, Paul and myself, because you don't know where you are. I had inquiries again the other day in Canberra from local people wanting to know when they're actually going to get a reply from the minister. So again, next week I'll be down there making David Beddoll's life miserable. But as I said, this has been going on for years and years and years, so I can understand the frustration that many of you people go through. But let's talk about nicer things. Yesterday I went to the Fisher's Ghost Festival. I pressed the button on the car radio on FM and up came 100.5 megahertz. And someone was playing The Sound of Music. And really that was terrific that I actually got that just by pressing a button. I didn't know where to look, quite frankly, and I wasn't looking, but it came up. And it was a good show. It was very good. There were people ringing in with requests later on in the evening, and I'd like to simply congratulate all those who've been who've been working through the years. I guess megahertz is not a bad word in some ways, but I'd like to thank all those people who've been working so hard to get MCR to where it is today. Most of you will know, of course, that this is a voluntary, non-profit organisation, that this organisation has raised something like $35,000. There's a lot of equipment here behind me, and a lot of people have put their heart and soul into this project. I'd hope we could get more people involved in the communities. I'm sure we will, once the station is up and running on a permanent basis, because this radio station will serve the function of being like a bush telegraph, being like the early